Hello, Karina. Please make sure your camera and mic is working. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. I hope everyone's doing well. All right.
We are.
Okay.
Thank you,
Let
Borough
me know when you
President.
want me to start, and I'll be more than happy to start. Or should I just start? I guess I'll just
Who wants to, who's starting?
I
Go
guess
ahead,
I'll start.
bro.
All right. So good evening. I am Brooklyn Borough President Antonio Reynoso. Tonight's Uniform Land Use Review Procedure, or ULURP, public hearing will be conducted via the WebEx video conference platform. On the agenda this evening are 3 applications currently under review by our office. Please note that this virtual hearing is being recorded to comply with public law for transparency. Viewers may join the hearing via the link and password on the following slide, and request to testify via the WebEx chat function. Viewers may also submit comments to Ask Reynoso at brooklynbp.nyc.gov for my consideration. That's Reynoso, Reynoso, at brooklynbp.nyc.gov. Please call the item and let us begin. Somebody move my video, my camera. All right. We're good.
Was not muted. Sorry, calendar item number 1220111 ZMK 220112 ZRK.
Antonio, would you like to read the description?
Yes, thank you. And please forgive me here while I figure this out. I'm just my first time. We'll get it right, but thank you so much. So this is the Mutual Housing Association, calendar item number 1, 3825 Fulton Street rezoning. Item number 220111 ZMK and 220112 ZRK. The Mutual Housing Association of New York and Cypress Hills Local Development Corporation submitted applications pursuant to sections 197C and 201 of the New York City Charter for a zoning map amendment to change the northern side of Fulton Street between Euclid Avenue and Pine Street from an R5-C23 to an R7A-C2-6, EC-6, and a zoning text amendment to establish a mandatory inclusionary housing area coterminous with the proposed rezoning area. The requested actions would facilitate a 7-story development with 33 affordable independent residences for seniors and a 2,750 square foot daycare center at 3285 Fulton Street in Brooklyn Community District 5. Community Board 5 has not yet taken a position on this application, and I will hold off on making any decisions until I hear from the board. We remind viewers who wish to testify that you must enter your name in the WebEx chat and state intent to speak on the application. After the presentation and question and answer portion, we will call speakers in order of chat requests. Would Benjamin Stark, the representative for the application, please state your name for the record and present the application?
Thank you so much, sir. Although I am, my name is Benjamin Stark. I'm an attorney with the law firm Hershey, Singer and Epstein. Just a little different on this presentation. This one's going to be led primarily by the applicants themselves. But I will take the opportunity to introduce members of our team that will be speaking tonight. From Cypress Hills Local Development Corporation, we have Michelle Neubauer, Executive Director. We also have from Cypress Hills Child Care Corporation, we have Maria Collier. Although I'm not seeing her as listed as one of the panelists. We'll deal with that in a second. Also from Mutual Housing, aka Manny Management, we have Esmini Speliotis, project architect from RKTB Architects, Alex Brito. Ms. Gusenfeld, can we move Maria to a panelist? She'll be introducing the daycare center in the new development.
And I think I'm going to start. So I am Michelle Neugebauer, the Executive Director of the Cypress Hills Local Development Corporation. Thank you, Borough President Reynoso, for considering our project and the proposed upzoning of 3285-87 Fulton Street, which will enable the entire development team to meet two critical needs of Cypress Hills, East New York. One, the need for affordable, safe, licensed, high-quality early childhood education. And the second, the desperate need of senior citizens in our neighborhood for safe, affordable, and deeply, permanently affordable housing. So if we go to the second slide. The project is a partnership, a true partnership between Cypress Hills Local Development Corporation, Manny Management, and the Cypress Hills Child Care Corporation, which are three very dedicated not-for-profit organizations. And we are proposing, as Ben said, to upzone the project site, which is the northeast corner of Euclid Avenue and Fulton Street, and the adjacent north side of Fulton Street between Euclid and Pine, from R5 C23 to R7A C24 EC6 with MIH. And this will make possible a beautiful new childcare facility with 5 classrooms, offices, and programming space for the Child Care Corporation, and the 27 units of senior housing. If we could go to the third slide. And the development team has over 100 years of experience in providing services, in building affordable housing in East New York. And Cypress Hills Local Development Corporation, just to tell you a little bit about what we do, we are governed by community residents and small business owners in the neighborhood. We provide comprehensive housing counseling, workforce development, college success, community organizing, small business technical assistance, and youth and family services programs. And we operate from 19 different public schools in Community School District 19 and 6 storefronts sprinkled throughout East New York. We're proud to partner with Manny Management, who got their start and have deep roots in East New York, and is now an experienced citywide not-for-profit affordable housing developer, and the Cypress Hills Child Care Corporation, which runs amazing nationally accredited early childhood education programs. So I'm going to turn on the next slide over to Maria Contreras Collier, who is the Executive Director of the Cypress Hills Child Care Corporation. Maria?
Ms. Gusenfeld, I apologize. I gave you only Maria's partial name earlier. She's logged in as Maria Contreras here. Thank you.
He's a presenter now.
Hi, Maria, you're on mute.
Maria, please unmute your mic.
Okay, good. I'm sorry. Good evening. I'm the executive director of the Cypressville Child Care Corporation. And since the early 90s, we've been nurturing the hearts and minds of the youngest residents of Cypress Hills and providing affordable, quality childcare where children are nurtured and parents can leave for work knowing that their children are being cared for, fed, and and taught a lot of good things. And we do amazing work with children. We have a curriculum of teaching peace, so our future leaders will always have Cypress Hills in a little bit of Cypress Hills in them. We also simultaneously help women capitalize in their child rearing skills and open their own daycare businesses. We help women also who want to be on that educational track to be able to become assistant teachers and teachers in our program. The vast majority of our personnel are Cypress Hills and East New York residents, and we are committed to continue doing so, because for children it is really beautiful when they're walking in the community where their parents, to see their teachers that live in their community and to see the rest of the staff. So it's something that we're very much committed to. Cypress Hills also provides a lot of ancillary services to help parents set goals. So when their children graduate, parents graduate also. Many of them have in their minds learning a new language, leaving an abuser. It's a whole long list of possibilities that we help them achieve while they're with us. And this possibility of having additional space will enable us to be able to move our very cramped offices to the site, provide additional care for families. And in addition, we anticipate that with the new construction that's taking place in Cypress Hills, the need for new and additional childcare slots are going to be very much in demand. Prior to the pandemic, we had extremely long waiting lists. They right now have, shortened a little bit, but as life starts going back to normal, the need for childcare will continue to increase. I think we have very long tenured employees that are totally dedicated to the care and education of young children. And I know I can speak about Cypress Hills and all the amazing things we have accomplished since 1991, but I know time is limited. So I just hope that this project is looked favorably, because we really need to continue nurturing those hearts and minds. Thank you very much.
Next slide, please.
And this is just the footprint of Cypress Hills Local Development Corporation, where we operate from. Historically, we have operated more in the northern end of East New York, and I'll turn it over to Ismini, the Executive Director of Manning Management. And the next slide.
Thank you, Michelle. Borough President, congratulations on your new position. We're really, I just wanted to take a moment to tell you how excited we are to have you in Brooklyn Borough Hall. As you can see here, we're really happy to be part of this development with Cypress Hills Local Development Corporation and Child Care Corporation. And this is Manny's footprint in basically in East New York and Brownsville. And like Michelle said, Cypress Hills, I think, had been granted projects to the north, and Manny has historically been granted projects to the south. And this kind of is, and recently we've been doing several collaborations as organizations bringing kind of North and Southeast New York together through us.
Next slide.
So this slide here actually is an effort to give you context to this particular project. So as you can see in the top there, there's 3285 Fulton, which is the proposed child care center with the 27 affordable senior apartments. Just down from there is another joint venture project between Cypress Hills and Manny, Chestnut Commons, which we really can talk about at another time. It's a building that's almost complete. It's a 275 unit building that will become the headquarters of Cypress Hills Local Development Corporation, which is currently has its programs scattered. Several of its programs will remain located throughout the neighborhood, but it will be centralized with over 30,000 square feet of community facility space there, and 275 truly affordable apartments. Most of them, over 70% of them, for families, complementing the senior housing development at 3285 Fulton. And then the other 4 sites are actually sites that you will get to hear about through a second ULURP that's actually run by the city, because these 4 lots are city owned. And we jointly, Cypress Hills and Manny, were awarded these lots in 2016 to develop as affordable housing, rental housing. And so the reason we're bringing it up, even though this is specifically a ULURP action for 3285 Fulton, is that even though they're 2 separate actions, because 3285 Fulton is privately owned by the Cypress Hills Child Care Center Corporation, and the city lots are city owned, so we have to bring a private ULURP action for 3285, and the city's bringing the ULURP action for the other 4 lots. So we'll see you hopefully next month on those. But I think what's important here is that they're getting financed together, and it's really critical. As you might imagine, it's actually virtually impossible to finance standalone anything. Standalone childcare centers, standalone community facility of any sort. And that's one of the reasons why we actually have gone through this process and added housing to 3285 Fulton that originally was contemplated as a standalone childcare center, but the funding was not available to support that. And so, and again, supporting the development of a 27-unit building is really, really hard. So what happens by coupling it with these other 4 lots, you end up with actually 73 unit grouping of 73 rental units. And suddenly you can actually afford to do this development and actually deliver a mix of studios in ones. And then the rest of the units in these 4 properties are 2 and 3 bedrooms, and all affordable at income levels that are available to the residents of East New York.
Next slide, please. Alex, do you want to introduce the project? Thank you.
Yep, will do. Good evening. My name is Alex Brito, principal with RKTB Architects. Thank you, Borough President, for taking the time to speak with us tonight. This view is an image of the site, which is located, as stated previously, on the northeast corner of Fulton and Euclid Avenue. The lot is currently occupied by a vacant 3-story building, and it faces the Crescent Avenue stop on the elevated J and Z subway lines. Next slide. So here is a rendering of our proposed 7-story building. The first 2 floors will house the Cypress Hills childcare space. The balance of the building floors 3 through 7 will house the 27 dwelling units for seniors. The proposed massing takes the majority of the bulk and places it on the corner of Euclid and Fulton, and then steps down to a 4-story portion just in the northern portion of the site. And we believe that makes a very nice transition between what's happening on the avenue on Fulton Street and what's happening on the rest of Euclid. Since this building faces the elevated subway line and the noise and all of the noise that it generates, our proposal carefully examines the facade openings. We're proposing that the majority of the window openings for the units are facing Euclid and away from Fulton. This leads into our choice of a mechanical system, which in this case is a very energy efficient VRF system that does 2 things. It mitigates the noise incoming from the elevated, but also produces, in and of itself, it's a very energy efficient system. The building has 2 roofs, as you can see, one above the 7th story and one above the 4th story. And we plan to use both of those roofs as a recreational outdoor space for both the childcare space and the senior tenants that live in the building. Next slide. So this is a quick view of the proposed action, which takes the existing R5 with a R5 with a C2-3 overlay and proposes an R7A with a C2-4 overlay. And we're also plan to carry over the special district guidelines of EC6 throughout the upzone site, with, of course, mandatory inclusionary housing along with it. Slide. And this image just shows our proposal with the elevated J and Z line right in front of it, and also at a catty corner from the large proposed project, which is a 14-story building right at the catty corner from our project.
Next slide.
Next slide.
Okay, so my name is Meredith McNair. I'm the community planner at Cypress Hills LDC, and I'll just describe the proposed child care center on the basement level and the first 2 floors. So unlike the original proposal that the borough president read at the beginning, we've altered the plan slightly to have 3 floors of child care center, almost 7,500 square feet. And we reduced 1 floor of residential, so there's now 27 housing units. This was done to give the Cypress Hills Child Care Center sufficient office space and allow them to fully vacate their current rented space. And so we're really excited about this plan. It has 5 classrooms that will serve up to 75 children. There's abundant office space with a reception area, lots of storage and meeting rooms, because this will not only service the full-time Cypress Hills Child Care Center staff working here at all hours, it'll also be a home base for a lot of the staff working out in the community at other home-based centers. So it'll be a really vibrant hub for the organization. And we've also included a recreational roof deck for recess time for the kids. And so there'll be a dedicated elevator and stairway from the child care center up to the top roof. This project would not be possible with over $5 million in RESOA funding that the 2 previous council members dedicated. And so we are just thrilled to be able to make this a reality. Next slide. Okay, I think his meeting will describe housing.
Thank you. So we are proposing 22 studios and 5 one-bedroom apartments in an effort to, again, provide housing opportunities for as many seniors as possible, and also to assist with the financing. HPD, when you choose between a senior building and a family building, which actually the law requires you to do, so you don't, just the fair housing law requires you to do, the city actually, when you build senior housing, asks you to build studio and one-bedroom apartments. As you will hear from the community board, this is not necessarily a popular position. It's not popular with us, and it doesn't mean that seniors can't actually get the apartments in the other 4 sites that will be going through ULURP next month. But in this building, and we do believe that there will be 27 senior households interested in being able to lease up these units. And what we've done here in an effort to create the two things. One is that we actually have created a lounge on every floor, so that seniors could actually not be stuck in their little studio or one-bedroom apartment all day, but really have an opportunity to interact with each other on each floor. And they can go to other floors also. We just made it easy for them. And then the whole idea behind this project, and the reason we chose seniors instead of family housing here, was really a commitment to intergenerational kind of connections. And we think, which we believe and studies have shown, and Maria can probably talk much more eloquently about this, about the benefits, health benefits, and psychological and sociological benefits of coupling children with elderly people.
Next slide, please.
And as we know, affordability is deeply a huge commitment of yours and a huge commitment of ours. And what we've done here is showing you, and again, we keep bringing in this other project. I think it just for context, because folks were concerned about 2 nonprofits building only studio or in one-bedroom apartments. So we wanted to give you a context on the units. And so the top table actually reflects what we're where we put the income levels for and the rents for the studio and one-bedroom apartments. In this building, of the apartments, you can see here that it says 0 under the 30% AMI column, but that's actually because actually anyone making between basically $1 and $40,812 would be eligible to get a project-based voucher. We've applied them to this building, and then you can see what the income levels are for the other two columns, 40 and 50. And as you can see, because we actually know that seniors are retired on fixed incomes, there are no senior units set at 60% AMI. So we try our very best to push down those income requirements for this particular building. And the way that this is possible is by working with HPD. So clearly the Reservoir money has been extremely helpful, particularly for the child care center costs. And then HPD is going to be providing subsidy to the tune of almost $10 million. And then we are going to package these 5 pieces of property into low-income housing tax credits that allow us to generate equity, not use up extraordinary amounts of HPD subsidy, and still get to very good affordability for this, for East New York. I also just wanted to mention, I think the next slide is questions. So we actually did go before the community board 3 times, Borough President Reynoso, and they had, you know, they had good questions. They had questions you could imagine, and they also had a hard time having the same people at each of the meetings. So we kind of repeated ourselves 3 times. But the good news, actually, just to to get to the end is that the community board, housing and economic development committee, land use and housing committee, excuse me, did vote in favor of 3285 Fulton last night, and they're going to make that recommendation to the full board. So the third time was a charm, and we did, I think, answer their questions. We studied trying to get more one bedrooms. I know it's hard to understand, but losing 5 apartments, the way the subsidies and the way the costs run, is really impactful to the financial feasibility of the project, and creates almost a $2 million shortfall. Really, not much benefit in terms of going to ask somebody for that $2 million dollars. Parking came up by the community board members, and again, we understand, and we're not saying that there aren't seniors who have cars, but we also know many seniors who don't, and many low and moderate income people who don't. We're at the subway stop, and so we really. And again, we could talk about parking, which happens on every affordable housing project, but basically this is a very, very small site, and Alex and Ben can, I think, attest to that and answer any questions around that. There was actually not a place for parking in this building. We really chose childcare and affordable housing as our mission on this site. And so anyway, we went through these topics with the community board 3 times. And again, like I said last night, the committee voted in favor of the project. So I just wanted to share that with you.
Thank you, Smini. We have one final slide, which can just hang on the screen for a second. It's just our anticipated timeline here, but that by and large concludes our plan presentation. Of course, we are here, the full group, to answer all the questions that you have, sir. Thank you.
Thank you for your presentation. You guys are gonna get to know me very well through these processes, I guess is what I would say. You spend a lot of time, spend too much time on parking is the first thing that you learn about me. But so as part of the East New York Community Plan, though the adjacent section of Fulton Street to the west of the proposed development was proposed to be upzoned to R6A, the upzoning was reduced to R6B in response to concerns for both residential and retail business displacement. With the proposal to upzone to R7A, would such concerns pertain to the non-applicant properties? And if so, why in this case would it be acceptable?
Thank you for that question. I'll take a stab at responding. We believe that the proposed density is appropriate from a land use perspective. As Alex had mentioned earlier, a lot of projects come before ULURP and tout their proximity to public transit, but we are quite literally on top of the subway station. The stairways are right there, and so we think that from like a micro planning strategy, although Fulton is a corridor that's deserving of density in some ways, from at a micro planning scale, where the stops are themselves are appropriate places to have just a little more density. The proposed building will be more, in our view, more than contextual with its surroundings, given the really substantial density that we're going to see catty corner to the development. Alex had mentioned it briefly. A developer, the Phipps houses or Phipps neighborhoods, is developing a very substantial, I believe that Ismani would know the name, is it the Atlantic Chestnut development? Hundreds of units, and really our
1,100 units.
1,100 units across a massive super block, and we believe that our 40-foot wide site at 7 stories will look like a kid brother compared to that development. But acknowledging that these are just contextual concerns. Your question was about, well, what is the impact, or could the impact be on adjacent properties? Our research has returned that all of those other individual properties in the rezoning area, which are 20-foot wide, 3-story walk-ups, held in separate ownership. There's no commonality between the owners. And what we have found in our experience is that that's a notable impediment to redevelopment. So we don't, and our environmental review identifies that we don't identify, or that we don't believe that within an immediate build year horizon, 5 or 10 years, that more than maybe one of the sites will be developed. We studied that perhaps the opposite corner, a full block to the east, might be redeveloped with a new 20 or 40-foot wide building, but in our view, it's not likely. And I guess the final thing to say on that front is that from what we understand, people are excited for our use to come in. The child care center is going to bring a real intense amount of foot traffic, people that will then spill over into those other uses. I'm sure that the spillover concept is nothing compared to the amount of people who'll be visiting the Phipps development, but it's all part of like a wider planning initiative to get more feet on the street and bring some vitality to the area. And we're excited to be a part of that.
Thank you, Benjamin. Are there marketing strategies that would be used to ensure that the selection process is fair and is ensuring the highest level of participation for District 5? And are there any units that are going to be set aside for homeless families or rent burden and risk, and or folks that are at risk of displacement? And will there be like a financial literacy campaign? Can you talk about, I guess, the marketing strategy that we're going to be taking on for this project?
Sure, I'm happy to talk about that. So basically, this is going to be funded by HPD. So it is subject to HPD's Housing Connect 2.0 program, and which Manny is extremely familiar with. We're actually administering 5 lotteries currently. So we're extremely, and we're actually just about to open the lottery for Chestnut Commons for the 275 unit building. This building will have a 50% community set aside. So that's absolutely going to be part of it. And that we always treat that as a minimum, not a maximum. And there will be 8 project-based vouchers that will be available to the formerly homeless. So there will be 8 units available to formerly homeless seniors in this building. And those 8, so what happens is the 50% preference comes out of the full 27, but the 8 units are not part of the lottery. The 8 units come through DHS and HPD. So the homeless people, so the homeless referrals come through a different pipeline, but still the 50% is still almost 15 units as a minimum, and it's not 11 units. So that's great that's how the city calculates the community preference. What we do as part of the marketing, and you'll know this because we'll do this with you as soon as the Chestnut Lottery opens, is we do huge seminars. We reach out during the process of the marketing process to make sure that everybody, we never want to meet an East New York resident who says that they did not know about this project, or any project that we're involved in marketing or developing. And so we will be out in the neighborhood, whether it's at the existing senior center that Cypress Hills operates around the corner from here, or just everywhere in the neighborhood, to make sure that everybody has a chance to apply, which on some level makes it worse. The more people that apply, the less your individual chances, but whatever. I mean, it's actually really important to us that everybody who needs a chance to live here has a chance to apply to live here. And the other thing that we've done, especially with seniors and with other developments that are coming, and this will come up at during the Chestnut Commons. Basically, you know, we've tried really hard to keep these the incomes, particularly in this building, as low as possible, knowing that seniors are fixed income, retired, et cetera, so their incomes might not be as high as you know, younger households. But and so we'll be actually working with people even before the marketing process starts, you know, during the construction phase, to make sure that people understand, you know, what's coming down the pike and they can be ready. And I'll give you an example. So someone comes to one of our seminars once on the Housing Connect on the lottery, and they're about to retire. And so they're like, I just got accepted to a lottery. And my income is X, and so the unit I'm eligible for is, you know, let's just say the 50% income category, and or higher if there's another band. And but next year my income's going to drop, you know, and so they're like, what should I do? And I said, well, I can't tell you exactly what to do, but I can tell you that if your income drops next year and you've been accepted and you move in, that's your rent. Okay, and so if your income drops by 50%, you're going to have a hard time paying it. So I would maybe wait until you got your right, you know, future income and apply, so you're actually at a lower income category. So these are the kinds of conversations that we'll be having with people in the neighborhood to make sure that they are not rent burdened, and they're kind of, you know, kind of following that process to the best outcome for them.
Going back to the 8 units that are formerly homeless, you know, we do have people who are displaced from East New York. We do have people that are in shelters in East New York. So how do you work with homeless services to make sure that the 8 placements are helping those either who used to live in East New York or are in shelters in East New York, as opposed to them randomly grabbing 8 households and supplying them to you?
So, Richard, we have not been successful. Okay, to be perfectly honest with you, and again, this would be really great for us to kind of sing this song together with HPD and HRA. I agree with you completely. Okay, that again, we've talked a lot about networks and fabric and, you know, kind of knowing, you know, getting people back home. But what's interesting, so the answer is no. HPD and HRA send the people in some order that they have that I'm not privy to, okay, and they just spit them out at us. But what's really good is that people are smart, and there's developments going up, you know, all over the place, and so they actually say no. And so what happens is somehow people self-select, you know. So the only way with the new Housing Connect rules, it's really hard to reject homeless. It's hard to, I mean, it's good. They made these rules in a way so that, because the private development community, you know, was rejecting, you know, perfectly eligible applicants. So they went kind of pretty far over. On homeless, it's pretty hard to reject homeless applicants. But what's interesting is that the applicants themselves are not always interested in living where they don't know. And so that we sometimes are able to actually get East New York residents because the others want to stay in the Bronx or Washington Heights or wherever. And so the process kind of filters itself out. But that's no excuse or replacement for a targeted program, just saying.
Thank you, sweetie. I appreciate it. Given that there's going to be a child care center in this space, can we identify what traffic calming measures would be implemented to improve pedestrian safety at Euclid Avenue and Fulton Street, or is the streetscape staying the same?
I can just speak a little bit to it. I mean, as Blessed Sacrament Church has their school on that same block, and they have crossing guards during the school in the morning and in the afternoon. And so I think we could definitely piggyback on the fact that they're already there. And then we're going to obviously have the entrance on Euclid Avenue, where there is less traffic.
Right.
And then most of our children are with us between the hours of 8 and 6 in the evening. And because they are anywhere from 2.5 through 5 years old, a parent or an adult that they have selected must pick up the child at school. And many of them pick up anywhere between 4:30 and 6. So the traffic has subsided a little bit, but also the children must leave with an adult. So that is kind of addresses the situation of the potential danger.
Is there anything in the design, the work that's happening in design that would help, like a curb cut, expanded curb cut, and so forth, outside of the work that's happening through, resources from, crossing guards and just the timing and the parenting of the age of the children and so forth? Design wise, is there anything that can or is being recommended to do in the street that could further protect the children that would be in the daycare center?
So if I could just answer that briefly. So as Maria stated, the proposed entrance to the childcare space is off of Euclid Avenue, which of course has a lot less traffic than on Fulton. The residential entrance, however, is on the avenue itself, on Fulton Street. Besides that, the EC6 that we're proposing to carry across not only the recently upzoned neighborhood plan, but into our site as well, would carry with it certain items. For example, how much glass is included at the ground floor. There are guidelines for street trees. There are guidelines for a setback off of Fulton Street, a 5-foot setback, certainly at the ground level, which allows for a little bit more space in the sidewalk for walking and getting around.
Within the parking lane, you'll see in other communities that they've done protected painted areas at the curb. So it's an extension of the curb into the parking lane, which shortens the crossing of the street. So whether that's appropriate on both streets or actually crossing Fulton as well, because you don't know which direction the children are coming from. So as part of your builder's pavement plan, you can either do it as the sidewalk level into the street lane, or DOT paints it as long as there's a maintenance agreement by the adjacent property. So those are other physical improvements you could look at.
Absolutely.
I think we would be really eager to work with DOT to implement whatever pedestrian safety design changes are possible, especially those bulb outs. We'd love to see that.
One of the advantages of this site, just kind of by chance, is that there's a little bit of an unusually wide sidewalk on Euclid. So once we incorporate the required ground floor setback because of the special Fulton district, both sidewalks on each side of the corner are going to be kind of like notably wide for what is not a very, very large building. So if we go further and incorporate a bulb out, it would be, it'd be awesome. You could imagine the kids kind of gathering on a pickup drop off. Anyway, thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, and then the bulb outs just help with slowing down vehicles because it's a smaller area for them to navigate through, tighter turns, slows down vehicles as well. So I'm glad that we're on the same page. Could it happen? It should happen. Thank you for that. I'm okay with the questions, Richard. There. So just want to remind the viewers who wish to testify that you must enter your name in the WebEx chat and state intent to speak on the application after the presentation and question and answer portion. We will call on speakers in order of chat requests. So I guess at this point, do we have anybody that wants to ask questions?
I believe Kelly Cook wanted to comment on the application, but she's representing one of the two organizations.
Okay.
Hi, good evening. Thank you, and I really appreciate the opportunity to speak. So thank you, Brooklyn Borough President Reynoso. On behalf of the Cypress Hills Child Care Corporation Board, my name is Kelly Cook. I serve as the board president, and I want to thank the collaboration between the Cypress Hills LDC and Manny, and they just fully support the work that our board is so interested in. I just want to highlight all the things that have been said to just underscore that this project that is earmarked will help the segments of Cypress Hills, the population in whole. We do have a need to help. That's what we do as the corporation, and we help the most important of the community, children, and we have a belief in our seniors. So, Cypress Hills, the Child Care Corporation, we have vast experience in educating and caring for young children, and this building will support that, what our practices have been. And this combination of a building will help to support seniors in keeping them safe. The affordable housing will be close to the proximity of all those things that I'm sure that seniors are so excited about being involved in and being right in the center of what's going on in the community. From the senior center that's just 2 blocks away, being accessible to supermarkets, houses of worship, a pharmacy, banks, etc. This building right now is a blight to us, and we see it as an opportunity to continue the growth of Cypress Hills, our community, which means so much to us. We don't want the misfortune and the canker that it is currently in the community to continue. And just to piggyback on what Benjamin and Minay shared, the 1,100 unit building that will be catty corner from this project will have a number of residents that will need childcare. And this daycare center will be there, and we're excited about being available to support the community. So again, thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you, Ms. Cook. I appreciate your testimony. Thank you so much. At this point, Richard, can we close this item?
Calendar item number 1 is closed. Calendar item number 2, 220111 ZMK, 220112 ZRK.
Thank you to everyone that was at the last item. I really appreciate you taking the time. Thank you so much. See you soon.
Thank you.
Omni Enterprises LLC submitted applications pursuant to sections 197C and 201 of the New York City Charter for a zoning map amendment to change the south side of Avenue P from the mid-block east of Coney Island Avenue to East 13th Street from R5B to R7A, and a zoning text amendment establish an MIH area coterminous with the proposed rezoning area. The requested actions will facilitate a 4-story, 14,880 square foot enlargement to the Levitt Medical Center located in 1220 Avenue P in Brooklyn Community District 15. Community Board 15 voted to disapprove this application on December 21st, 2011. Remind viewers who wish to testify that you must enter your name in the WebEx chat and state intent to speak on the application. After the presentation and question and answer portion, we will call on speakers in order of chat request. Would Amanda Iannati, the representative for this application, please state your name for the record and present the application.
Hi, Borough President Reynoso, Richard Lobel of Sheldon Lobel. Amanda and I will be presenting jointly this evening.
Hey, Richard, it's nice to see you.
Nice to see you as well, and congratulations on your assuming the role of Borough President. We're looking forward to big things.
Yes, we'll see. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it. Take it away.
Okay, if you can post the presentation. Once again, Richard Lobel of Sheldon Lobel, joined by Amanda. With me today are Joseph Kossoff and Dr. Susan Levitt of Omni Enterprises, who run the Levitt Medical Center at the site, Amber Kurtalian and Kevin Williams of equity environmental. So we have before you 1220 Avenue P, which is a rezoning which has been in process for some time. Next slide. To summarize the land use actions here, there are two. The first would be a zoning map amendment to rezone portions of two blocks, 6774 and 6775, within Brooklyn Community District 15 from an R5B zoning district to an R7A zoning district. So as we'll show later on the area map, on one block, there would be 3 lots zoned R7A, and on the second block, there would be 7 lots, 4 of which are included in the development site. The reason for this rezoning would be the creation of an enlargement to an existing medical center, the Levitt Medical Center Midwood. This is an existing 5-story, 19,500 square foot center. The enlargement is a new 11,000 square foot story, 11,000 square foot addition, which would be located adjacent to the existing facility, so that the enlarged medical center would be a total of approximately 30,000 square feet, an FAR of 3.08. The second action alongside this would be, of course, a mapping of mandatory inclusionary housing district pursuant to ZR Appendix F. So that would be mapped as a text amendment, which would mean that any residential development on any of the affected lots would carry with it, of course, a requirement of mandatory inclusionary housing. Having said that, the entirety of this application has been presented to the community board and now to the borough president is for a medical center. Next slide. So what is proposed development and why have we been working on this for really now what amounts to over 4 years? The proposal would allow for this 4-story enlargement to the existing use group 4 medical center. This would provide for an 11,000 square foot enlargement to an existing 19,000 square foot medical center, resulting in a total of 30,000 square feet. There would be parking adjacent to the site on 2 lots that are owned by the applicant, but would not have any building on them. So we would provide 14 attended parking spaces. There is an as-of-right option that would not require this rezoning, which would provide that separate smaller buildings were built on each of the 3 additional sites owned by the applicant. Now, this would result in an enlargement, which would consist of 2 3-story buildings, totaling roughly 9,400 square feet. Importantly, no parking would be required pursuant to that as-of-right enlargement. So the reason that the applicants have been really what I would say is fighting so hard and for so long for this rezoning is that it enables them to enlarge the existing facility, which would allow for elderly, infirm, weakened patients to be able to receive all of the treatments they need at the various departments within the center without having to leave the center. So it would allow for generous floor plates. It would allow the applicants to have personnel and patients stay inside the building, which of course is important in light both of adverse weather conditions, the fact that many of these patients are frail, as well as for administrative purposes to prevent travel to and from 4 separate buildings when we can just centralize it in this one building. In addition, if they were to take an as-of-right route, there would be no additional parking provided by law, as the existing facility does not require parking, and none of the additional facilities would rise to the level of requiring parking. Next slide. So we're going to briefly run through the maps and photos and then the plans. And after that, we'd be happy to answer any questions from the borough president. You can see in the circled area that this district is currently an R5B. Important to note is that we are adjacent to an R7A. So as we go to the next slide, you can see where the zoning district has been extended from that existing R7A on the left and stretched to cover the R5B district on the right. So this is a common practice at city planning. In order to maintain context for the area, they'll take an existing district, stretch it over to encompass a rezoning area. So although there are roughly 10 properties included within the rezoning area, only 4 of those are applicant controlled. The remainder on the left portion of the rezoning district are residential properties which front Avenue P, and on the right are 2 community facilities as well as 1 smaller residential property. Next slide. The area map after this slide provides you can go one more slide, provides more of a better, clearer understanding of the rationale behind this rezoning. Can I see the next slide? There we go. So you can see the dotted area surrounding the proposed rezoning area. We are adjacent to Avenue P. Avenue P here is a wide street at 100 feet. Kings Highway, Coney Island Avenue nearby, also a wide street. So these are extra wide streets, which of their own accord would be able to handle the increase in density here, were this even to be proposed for residential use. That's not the case. The modest increase to the size of the proposed facility here can more than easily be compensated for by the street access that this has from being a corner lot, as well as from Avenue P operating as a wide street. Also, bus lines abound in the area. It's basically a good area for this proposal, regardless of the fact that we are doing community facility. Next slide. So the next slide and the slides that follow are pictures of the proposed development site, as well as the surrounding area. You can see in the top left photo a picture of the existing facility. This is an existing 5-story facility. It's an important facility in the area. I think that understanding the feelings of the community board around this application, it's recognized that the really high quality medical care that's offered at the center is important to this area of Brooklyn. As a short list, the center provides cardiology, family practice, general surgery, gynecology, internal medicine, occupational therapy, orthopedics, physical therapy, and wound care. They treat neurological disorders, including neuro-ophthalmology conditions, memory disorders, epilepsy. In short, we even heard testimony from applicants' patients who have said that they don't have to go to Manhattan to receive cancer treatment, oncological care. They're able to do that merely by going to this area of Brooklyn. It's a huge asset to the surrounding area, and one of the reasons we feel passionately about this project. I think if you want to forward through the next few slides, which contain additional photos of the area, we would end up on the plans and materials reflecting the proposed development. Kept our photographer busy here. And keep going. Get to the expansion of the Diagnostic and Treatment Center. We should almost be there. 3, 2, 1. Great. So these are the zoning calculations and plans which follow. I think if you want to page through to the next slide, we've got a copy of the floor plan and site plan. So you can see on the right the existing facility, that is the existing 5-story facility that fronts on Avenue P and East 12th Street. And I'm sorry, that's probably East 13th Street, as well as the addition which would appear to the back of the property. So this would be adjacent to the parcel, connected to the existing building. You can see this from the connecting plans, and would allow for floor-to-floor heights at the same level as the existing facility, so that we can create these additional departments within the building, not requiring transfer outside the building. If you want to slide through the plans and materials, you can see basically just illustrating the seamless connections between the existing building and the proposed addition on the left side. There are renderings which demonstrate the 4-story addition as well as sections. So in conclusion, we added some renderings on the back. The proposed enlargement would reflect the existing building typology, and we ended with a map showing letters of support. You can see green dots in and around the facility. Those include over 20 letters which were received from neighbors and supporters of the project in the immediate area who would be addressing this facility every day. So in conclusion, we're happy to answer any questions. We're hopeful that the Brooklyn Borough President will see his way clear to supporting this project, and we really feel that this is an important addition to a very heavily utilized facility which provides essential services to this area of Brooklyn.
Thank you for that presentation, Richard. This letter of support map is the first time I've seen it. Very good.
Sure.
Very good job.
Thank you.
It's valuable. We want to know what our neighbors are thinking. The requested R78 district permits residential development and a building several stories taller than the proposed addition, which would be much higher than the homes along East 12th and East 13th Streets. If such rezoning is granted, what guarantees us that the represented medical building enlargement was for height consistent with the rendering is presented, and what binds the represented open parking areas on East 12th and 13th Street? So I guess, how do we know we get what we see?
Right, which is a consistent question we get in ULURP. I think the first thing I always answer here is looking at good faith. I mean, you have an applicant here who's operated this center for over a decade. And moreover, interestingly, Borough President, the way that the zoning worked on the site was when this property was initially developed, it was an R6. And so the community facility floor area ratio was a 4.8. So they built their floor area ratio out to roughly 20,000 square feet. Subsequently, the property was downzoned to an R5B, which only really permitted 8,000 square feet of development in R5B, permitting a 2 FAR. So in short, when they asked for this rezoning and when they agreed to merge the additional lots and the additional lot area, all that additional non-compliant floor area, the grandfathered floor area, would be sucked up by these other sites. So they're actually capped at what they would be able to build in the event that they do get the rezoning and merge those lots. So the first thing I would say is that what would prevent them in the immediate sense of overbuilding would be that they would only be able to build roughly these additional 12,000 square feet, and that's it. But I think more importantly than that is that we understood, and we still understand, that the community wants parking, and the community doesn't want to see this property flipped or developed with residential, and we're okay with that. And so whatever assurances that are necessary, we would give. When we originally sat down with Community Board 15, for whom we have a tremendous amount of respect, Chair Teresa Scavo, Ronnie Tawil of the Land Use Committee, we worked with them countless times, or not countless, but dozens. We get them. We understand the concerns. They usually are so supportive and generous. And when we sat down with them 6 years ago, they said, they issued a letter. The letter basically said that to the extent that we were going to commit to 14 parking spaces and the plans you see before you, they preliminarily would allow us to proceed. So in answer to your question, we're happy to record, to figure out whatever would secure the parking spaces and the development at this site at whatever it would need to be. We're happy to execute that documentation, to record that documentation. That is not, should not be the gating item here. We want this development for purposes of providing medical services. So we hope that answers the question.
It does. We have some more conversations to have, or when we put forth our recommendations. You'll see what we want to do. But we were hoping that it was through zoning amendments that we were able to do this, right? Like that we could just allow for the zoning to kind of dictate the outcomes of the building. But in this case, there is a leap of faith here that you're putting us through, Richard, and we're my history, and
right.
That not be the case, and that we can move forward with something that does what it says and nothing more. But I understand. Well, thank you for your answer, though.
Of course.
In addition to the intended development, the proposed zoning provides substantial development rights to the 4 detached homes and 2 religious facilities that might result in development inconsistent with the intent of the 2006 Homecrest and Midwood rezonings. What consideration was given to advance alternative proposals that would have been less likely to provide the extent of zoning rights that might compel redevelopment of these properties? So unlike your commitment and the leap of faith we will take with you, that we don't have the representatives of these religious facilities present with us. What makes it so that we have confidence that they won't overdevelop their properties inconsistent with the wants of the local community board?
Sure. So there's really 2 answers that we have here. The first is that when we work with city planning on any rezoning application, we have to develop a land use rationale. And so, one of the things that's important to note here is that given how wide this street is, transportation alternatives in the area, we came in with an R7A for all of these lots. And so, and so we have to defend that, and we understand that that's our burden. Having said that, what things am I able to say on the record? Number one, we gain no material benefit from the inclusion of these other properties. And so, although our application rezones these properties, it costs us additional money to include them in the application in terms of filing fees. It costs us additional time and money to perform environmental and other diligence that's necessary for these lots. So we get it. To the extent that, of course, we can't limit those lots. We can't similarly say that we're going to control development there. So while we feel that the land use rationale that governs an R7A here would also support development on those lots, I think what we would instead offer is that to the extent that the community board weighs in, to the extent that the Brooklyn Borough president weighs in and decides that zoning is not appropriate for those lots, we understand that in almost all applications now, there are recommendations to exclude properties from rezonings, as well as to effectively downzone those properties from the proposed rezoning district. This has happened numerous times. I recall, former Majority Leader Cumbo, we had a rezoning on South Portland Avenue, which included 8 lots, including the applicant's lot. And as a matter of public record, she reduced it to 1. So it's something that happens. We understand that this is a reality of development and of the work that the council does. So while we went in with a land use rationale that supported this, we also understand that there is natural opposition to including those. And so we ask that to the extent the Brooklyn Borough president feels that way, that of course, your office is able to issue that determination accordingly.
Thank you for that, Richard. The parking, I guess, so to be straightforward, that the parking not be for, the staff per se, and be more for the patients that would be coming in and out consistently, that would actually cause traffic in and out and around those areas. Is there going to be a commitment here for those parking spaces to be for patients that will be coming in and out regularly?
They are. The commitment currently parking at the site is to allow for is to designate those spaces for visitors to the facility for the enlarged portion. And again, we expect that this is merely going to allow for the same patient load, but essentially to be using this one facility. So there's a certain lack of additional traffic that will occur because what you see is what you get. The patients who are coming to the site, instead of going off-site for oncological services, will now be able to stay here. So in a certain respect, this was the issue with the community board. We understand that, but in direct answer to the borough president's question, yes, the spaces which will be committed to the site, the applicants here have made clear for the last 6 years that they would do so, would not be used, would be designated merely for patients to park, for pickup and retrieval of patients. So we are committed to that.
What should we proceed with this with a positive recommendation? How do we? What steps are being taken for like locally based staffing opportunities?
Sure. So, Dr. Levitt and I have discussed this many times. Given the specialized medical care that's offered here, there's, for many of these jobs, there's a limited number of even qualified applicants. But what the applicant here commits to is that for any of these jobs, including the jobs which would naturally flow from the additional space afforded to the center here, the applicant would first and foremost advertise locally, local publications, local radio, local job postings, work with the community board and local organizations to make sure that those jobs were first and foremost publicized within and around Community Board 15. This is very important to the applicant for 2 reasons. The first is that local hirings are better for the area, not only in terms of jobs for the area, but also in terms of allowing for less car trips, for less reliance on automobile traffic, in order so that as between 2 applicants and 2 applicants for a job position, if we have someone who lives 3 blocks away versus 3 miles away, it's an easy call for us to make to have someone who lives close. And the second one, of course, is that given the fact that there is, we are operating medical facility with specialized offerings, scheduling here is important. The ability of people to be here on time is important. The ability to serve the local population in, for example, inclement weather is important. I would note that during recent storms, and also particularly having visited the center myself during the pandemic, we're treating a lot of people here. They are treating a lot of people here in a time critical manner. So we want people from this area to be staffing this center. And to that regard, we will take whatever steps are necessary to make sure that those offerings first go out to the local population.
Thank you for your presentation, Richard. We're going to allow for the viewers who wish to testify to remember to enter your name in the WebEx chat and state your intention to speak on this application. After the presentation, question and answer portion, we will call speakers in order of their chat requests. So I guess who's calling on the speakers?
If we could please put up our slide with instructions for calling and logging in to testify, that would be great. At this time, no one has indicated intent to speak in the chat.
Should anyone want to speak and because they don't have the information or
Ina, Ross would like to testify. Ross then?
Okay, if we could unmute them so that they're able to speak.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yes. Yeah. Hello. Yes. Hi. How are you? My name is Ross Den. I'm a security consultant. I lived in the area for many years. I passed by the facility, so I know firsthand of of operation as well. And I feel that this is a great opportunity for the neighborhood to get a facility that is all encompassing as far as the doctors, the staff, and the special. The special treatment that one could get eventually in the facility that normally would not be able to get in Brooklyn. So, and from a security perspective, I also appreciate the fact that every new building that comes up has better lighting, which deters crime, has cameras outside, has good pavement. It always improves the neighborhood from the perspective of security. So that's it.
Thank you, Mr. Dan. Appreciate that. Appreciate your testimony. Are there any other folks in line to testify? Okay, hearing none. I'd ask Richard if he can close this item.
Calendar item number 2 is closed. Calendar item number 3, 210312ZMK, 210313ZRK.
And thank you to the last applicants. We'll be hearing our recommendation soon. SBENY Holdings, LLC submitted applications pursuant to sections 197C and 201 of the New York City Charter for a zoning map amendment to change an area roughly between Williamsburg Street East and Keep and Hooper Streets from R6 and R6C13 to R7X C2-4, and a zoning text amendment to establish an MIH area coterminous with the proposed rezoning area. The requested actions would facilitate an 8-story mixed development with 52 apartments and 7,786 square feet of ground floor commercial space at 103D Avenue in Brooklyn Community District 1. Approximately 16 units would be affordable to households earning on average 80% of area median income pursuant to MIH option 2. Community Board 1 voted to approve this application on January 11, 2022. We will have that confirmed by the applicant. We remind viewers who wish to testify that you must enter your name in the WebEx chat and state intent to speak on the application. After the presentation and question and answer portion, we will call speakers in order of chat request. Richard, you're back on. Please state your name for the record and present the application. And if you could begin by clarifying whether or not Community Board 1 actually voted to approve this project. Thank you.
Sure. So again, thank you, Borough President. Richard Lobel of Sheldon Lobel PC. I'm joined tonight by Mark Spitzer, SBENY, the applicant for this rezoning, as well as Amber Cartelli and Kevin Williams from Equity Environmental, Brenda Levy and Martin Joseph from Reside, New York. So we have before us the 103 Lee Avenue rezoning. And in answer to the Borough President's question, on January 11th, 2022, Community Board 1 Brooklyn did vote 27 in favor, 2 opposed to approve this rezoning, confirming the 16-0 unanimous vote of the Land Use Committee. This is an application which garnered tremendous support at the community board, and we're happy to bring it before you and to run through this presentation. Next slide. So to summarize the project, first, the applicant seeks a zoning map amendment to rezone block 2200, lot 6, and part of lot 4, as well as across the street, across Lee Avenue, block 2199, lot 22, and parts of 4 remaining lots from existing R6 and R6 C13 districts to an R7X C24 district. As with other rezonings, the applicant also seeks to establish the area as a mandatory inclusionary housing area, proposing to map both options 1 and 2. This would facilitate the development of a new 52,900 square foot, 8-story mixed-use commercial and residential building with roughly 52 dwelling units, of which 16 would be affordable pursuant to option 2. With regards to option 1, that number would be roughly 11 units. 15 parking spaces would be provided at the site. Next slide. So what would be permitted pursuant to the proposed development? The next slide contains the statistics regarding the development. We would have an 8-story plus cellar building. The floor area of the building would be roughly 5.95 with 45,000 square feet of residential and 7,700 square feet of commercial. Importantly, you have a block here, and we'll see this later on the zoning map, where you don't have a commercial overlay. So the addition of the rezoning in the area not only results in the production of, importantly, housing, which is also inclusive of inclusionary housing, but also results in a commercial overlay on this site, which would allow for commercial development on this corner of Lee Avenue. Clearly something which is desired by the local community. This is a commercial corridor along the site. The total height of the building would be 84 feet. There would be a setback on the 8th floor of 15 feet. 15 vehicular parking spots would be provided under the building. There would be 52 dwelling units. And again, just to correct the numbers, 13 affordable units would be available if option 1 was selected, 16 under option 2. Next slide. So what we see on the next slide, and it's often nice to see the zoning map, even though some of the details can be kind of difficult to read, but you see here that this property is currently an R6 district. R6 districts are important in 2 respects. Number 1, the maximum floor area ratio available in an R6 district is a 4.8 for community facility buildings and allowing certain mixed-use buildings with community facilities. So a 4.8 FAR here already provides for fairly aggressive development on a site of this nature. Additionally, an R6 is a non-contextual district, meaning that without an absolute height cap as would be offered by the proposed contextual rezoning, you're limited merely by setbacks and the amount of floor area and the depth of the site. So again, R6 development would allow, and as we will show later in the slides, some fairly taller buildings in the area. Density and height is not unknown to this area. We feel that this may be one of the reasons the community board was strongly in favor of this application. Next slide has an additional picture demonstrating the fullness of the zoning map here. Again, as we border 2 zoning maps, you can see the R6 and other districts in the area. Next slide. Next slide is the tax map, and it's again bifurcated, showing the rezoning on both sides of Lee Avenue. You can see that there's certain portions of additional lots that are included, but primarily the 2 lots which are included are the development site, which you see on the upper right portion of the dotted area. On the right side of the dotted area, that's 103 Lee Avenue, which is a roughly 8,900 square foot development site. And then on the left side, you see, and actually if you can advance 1 slide, you can see the fullness of the zoning lot across Lee Avenue. That's 100 Lee Avenue. That is an 8,200 square foot lot. Next slide. There you go. So that's, you can see the entirety of 100 Lee Avenue is also included within the rezoning area. That currently is low-lying commercial use. Next slide. So you can see on the next slide the area map, which again demonstrates several things. First of all, you can see the light pink coloring along Lee Avenue. Those are commercial uses. So one of the benefits of this rezoning would be to add that commercial overlay to this property, allowing for 7,700 square feet of local retail, as we've discussed with the community board at the site. Additionally, you can see that we are sitting adjacent to the cut for the Brooklyn-Queens Expressway. This is an extra wide street at 150 feet, which really, as we look at it, allows for a step up in density. You're not fronting on small residential developments, you're fronting on a major thoroughfare. You can see from the photos that are included, feel free to page through the development site itself. And you can see the low-lying building across the street. That one story is 100 Lee Avenue. Of course, surrounding the development site, when you can page through, are 6-story buildings, 7-story buildings, and then we end up at the zoning change map. The zoning change map, again, you see the shaded area, which are the commercial overlays along Lee Avenue. And then the triangular portion here would be the affected area of the map, which would create the R7X district. The next slide shows a rendering of the property, rather handsome building, including terraces for residents. And there on the ground floor, you can see ground floor commercial uses, reflecting commercial uses along Lee Avenue. The next several slides include site plans and site plans and floor plans. There's a section of the building showing the setback on the 8th story. Next slide. And then starting with the cellar, you can see the cellar with an entrance on Lee Avenue, providing for 15 parking spaces. And if you'd like to page through to the slide after this, you can see the proposed commercial space again, 7,700 square feet to be divided. Slide 2, the next slide shows a residential floor layout plan, and we include residential unit counts later in the presentation. The 3rd through 7th and 8th stories show typical layouts, primarily for 1 and 2 bedroom apartments, and then finally a roof plan. So I think if you just want to page through, I guess, 3 more slides, you're going to see other sections and renderings of the building. Again, what we view to be a rather handsome building for the area. The slide after this shows the building in the context, as well as development on the adjacent lot or the lot across Lee Avenue in the context of the area immediately adjacent to the building. Of course, a 6-story building, to the north of the property, a 7-story building. Generally speaking, there are taller buildings in and around the area of the Brooklyn-Queens Expressway. If you want to forward 2 slides, we did show some views with indicators showing some of the taller buildings in the area. 111 Lee Avenue at 6 stories, 168 to 86 Hooper Street at 7 stories, and various other tall buildings abound. We will not go through them in their entirety. And I think if you want to just fast forward through the next 2 pictures, we're going to end up at the dwelling unit mix. And this is our last 2, these are our last 2 slides. So the dwelling unit mix. You can see here that there are 1 bedrooms amounting to 21 bedrooms and 31 2-bedrooms with 1 3-bedroom. We find this to be in demonstrating unit counts and building and bedroom sizes that are over half the building, really devoted to 2 bedrooms or greater. So, clearly roughly 60% is at 2 bedrooms or greater. We think it's a really nice amenity for the local area. It's the opportunity, oftentimes there's discussions around density and unit counts and studios and the fact that a lot of areas are they prefer to have larger units, and that's what we accomplish here. Allows for some families just starting out, maybe with a few children, to inhabit the building, which is a rental building. Important to note is that in an as-of-right building here, again in the R6 scenario, you would have a building with roughly 29 units, of which would require no affordability. So really the margins here, as far as the additional 23 units, a percentage of those, most of those are now going to be affordable housing, which is demonstrated on the next slide, which shows the proposed affordability under the 2 available options, as well as unit mixes. Again, under option 1, 25% at 60% AMI, with 10% at 40% AMI, resulting in roughly 13 affordable dwelling units, 7 1-bedroom and 6 2-bedrooms. Option 2 with 30% of the units at 80% of AMI, 16 affordable dwelling units with 8 1 and 8 2 bedrooms. We see the 60% and 80% AMI options in terms of income and family sizes. Of course, with option 1, 10% of the building would be at that 40% AMI. And so on the bottom, we include 40, 60, and 80% AMI rents for each of the various options. We really are happy to bring this project to the Brooklyn Borough President's office. We're taking a property where there are development options here and sizable development options, and creating something where we're creating not just residential units, but affordable units, which is something which is needed by the surrounding area. In fact, this was probably one of the more heavily discussed aspects of the project at the community board. The fact that we are creating affordability here in an area where you don't necessarily have that. Another advantage, of course, of the MIH program is that the affordable units are not merely placed in lower floors of the building and do not merely constitute one bedrooms, but are, as you can see, and as required by zoning, a mix of bedroom units reflecting the mix of the building generally. So the area here was really happy to see this program utilized in this manner and to create this affordability. I think if you want to go to the next slide, it just ends with a rendering of the proposal. And with that, Brooklyn Borough President, we are happy to answer any questions.
I'm going to step in for the moment, and I want to apologize if we have people on the phone line. We will ask at the end for testimony, including if it was for the first and second items. So first question is, for the intended affordable housing units, what is the qualifying range of the income? So you'll go back to that slide perhaps again, and based on the household sizes that you have. And then what would be the anticipated rents based on the bedrooms and again, the distribution of the bedroom sizes?
Sure. So if we can go to the second to last slide that we brought up, which does have qualifying incomes. So I'm going to read it out while we are, just while it's coming up.
Appreciate that.
Sure. So at 60% AMI under option 1, we would be looking at from a family size of 1, we'd be looking at income of $50,160. Family size of 2, $57,000. Family size of 3, $64,000, and a family size of 4, $71,000. So at option 1, these family incomes would roughly correlate with for a family size of 2, 1 bedroom, and a family size of 3 to 4, a 2-bedroom apartment. Of course, option 2 would provide for 80% AMIs, ranging from $66,880 for a family size of 1, $76,400 for a family size of 2, $85,920 for a family size of 3, and $95,440 for a family size of 4, with an understanding, of course, that under option 1, 10% of the units would be available at 40% AMI, with $33,440 in income for option 1, under a family size of 1, $38,200 under a family size of 2, $42,960 for a family size of 3, and $47,720 for a family size of 4. So the breakdowns again for option 1, 7 1-bedrooms and 6 2-bedrooms, and for option 2, 8 1-bedrooms and 8 2-bedrooms. The rents for the corresponding bedroom counts are included in the charts below. There are no studios in the building, so we're just looking at 1s, 2s, and a 3-bedroom. The 1-bedroom for the 60% option would be $1,200. For 2 bedrooms under 60% AMI, rent would be $1,400, and for 3 bedrooms, $1,650. These are rough numbers. And for the option 2, 80% AMI, 1 bedroom at $1,650, 2 bedrooms at $1,970, and 3 bedrooms at $2,270. There was conversation with the community board about this, and there was a recognition that, particularly given the nature of unit prices in the area, that this would be something which would be a boon to the community to have units at this price, at these prices.
And again, the 60% and the 80%, those rents would be the average rent collection, and that you would have a range of rents, some below and some higher with that 60%, and the same for the 80%.
Correct, with the understanding that under the regulations, the 40% would be a requirement under option 1.
Thank you.
Sure.
If you could please identify what marketing strategies, such as designating a local affordable housing nonprofit as the affordable housing administering agent, and so what would be used in the process in terms of tenant selection to ensure the highest level of participation from Community District 1 residents, especially those that are rent burdened or at risk for displacement? And would such marketing strategies start off with a financial literacy campaign to help qualify area residents for the lottery?
Sure. So the intended affordable agent for the project would be Reside New York. Reside New York and Representatives Brenda Levy and Martin Joseph, who I understand are not on the call, but we're available at the community board. Reside New York, it currently administers thousands of units across the city, including, I believe, at least 15 Brooklyn properties with hundreds of units. So this is an agency which is very familiar with the local area. Their offices are actually on Keep Street, so they are intimately familiar with Community Board 1. They have they engage as a regular matter with regards to acting as affordable housing agents and affordable administering agents. They, in addition, they are the agency that conducts the financial literacy campaign. In fact, my understanding is that they are oftentimes consulted and used as co-administering agents by other administering agents who have received designations as administering agents for other properties. So they have an intimate knowledge of the lottery process. They're very well qualified to conduct financial literacy campaigns and are particularly well suited to do so in Community Board 1, which is, as everyone knows, a very local animal. They would conduct financial literacy campaigns in order to achieve as aggressive a strategy as possible to get those Community Board residents to fill the 50% preference for the affordable units here. So again, we're happy to use them. We can provide some additional materials in writing to the Borough President's office, detailing some of the financial literacy campaigns and the individual tactics that are used in order to bump up education as well as local action.
And in their holdings in District 1, if they've partnered with some of the other locally based nonprofits for the outreach and literacy, that'd be great to know.
Sure. At a minimum, I know they've talked about partnering with St. Nick's, so we're happy to give you all the info they have.
Hey, Richard, it's Antonio. I'm back. I just wanted to, Richard, what communication has happened? What local organizations have you communicated to regarding this project?
Yeah, this is kind of a conversation at the community board, and the owner, Mark Spitzer, the applicant, is a product of the local Williamsburg community. While he's had extensive conversations with Reside New York, there weren't as many conversations with local nonprofits. I think that to the extent that that's a recommendation, and from the discussions with the community board, he's welcome in that discussion. I would note that the community board, when they talked about this, one of the things that they conditioned their approval on was that the applicant would reach out to local community and non-profit organizations to consult with them regarding plans going forward. So I think Mark recognized the value of discussing this with local nonprofits, and we're happy to kind of keep the Brooklyn Borough President's office informed about our contact with those organizations as we go forward.
Yeah, Richard, that's going to be very important, obviously. It's just very important to reach out to the local folks. You did a great job with the last presentation and showed letters of support from neighbors and so forth. It should not be, there should be no exceptions to that. And having the support of local community organizations would be very important to us here. So I just want to make sure that is something you advise your clients with very strongly, that this office cares deeply about the local leaders and local folks here.
We appreciate it, and we're always learning too. So we're going to do that, and we look forward to satisfying the office.
Okay, and then also and I'm sorry that I had to step out for 2 seconds, and I might have Mr. Barrack would probably have asked this question already. But there's a property across the street that is included in this application. Are we assuming the same argument related to or for lack of a better word, not caring whether or not that's in an application?
I think there's a few things to note here. First is that property right now, which is roughly the size of our property, within 700 square feet of our lot area, is a one-story commercial building, which has been a one-story commercial building for decades. They've got existing floor area under their existing R6 to build up to a 50,000 square foot building, mixed use. They haven't done so. So the applicant there, the owner there, is on the record as saying that they're really not interested in developing. They're not interested in developing now, or they already would have, and they're really not interested in developing the creation of the R7X going forward is not something which has spurred them to development. Having said that, we do understand that this is a rezoning, and we do understand, similarly to our discussions on the last rezoning, that we included that property. I think there's a little bit of a different feeling as far as the inclusion of that property here, because the conditions which merit an R7X on our site probably merit an R7X on 100 Lee Avenue as well. They're sitting on the same street system. They're adjacent to the Brooklyn Queens Expressway. Having said that, I would add that while we do think it would be a benefit to the area, and while it would result in the same creation of units, we do note that that the community board did indeed want to limit the rezoning to 103 Lee Avenue. And so, of course, it is the Brooklyn Borough President's prerogative to do the same. But yeah, I mean, I think as a land use rationale, we included it for those reasons. But again, we understand, that everyone does as they feel is justified in ULURP.
Yeah, and look, I want to work off the merits here and think that if there's land use rationale, that we should have a discussion. But again, our biggest concern is the owners of these properties communicating to local leaders and organizations would really help us in being able to push the land use rationale to align with community wants and needs. I think there's a way to marry that. We don't need to do one. We can do both. Why not? So we love, and I know you don't represent the other client, or it's not your client, but I think again that would also allow us to move forward in a more amicable way.
We really appreciate that comment, Borough President, because it's not something that everyone immediately makes. Like, a lot of people just want to default and say, well, for example, we'll think about whether or not they should be or should not be included, as opposed to what you just said, which is have a conversation, talk to them, and see what the understanding might be. So we do have a relationship with that owner, and that Mark, being a resident of the area, has known that owner for years. We're happy to do that. We're happy to engage them and try to bring them along. And so although we do not represent them, we can include them in those conversations and see where that goes. And, we think that in addition to being a good rezoning, we think that we have a good project. And to the extent that there's other properties that feel the same way, who knows? It's something that's a possibility. So thank you for the comment. We'll take that to heart, and we'll see what comes of it.
I would really appreciate that, Richard.
You bet.
Thank you so much for that. And I just want to be clear that the local organization that has been serving there for decades is UJO.
We do know that.
Okay, all right. Thank you.
Yeah, sure, of course.
I don't know where we are with the questions or where we were.
The project location, do you want to pick up on that one?
Yeah. Yes. Also, the location of this project. Are there traffic calming opportunities here that could be implemented to improve pedestrian safety at Keep and Lee Avenue? It's actually a very busy area, and yeah, it's an extremely busy area. So this is arguably across the street from the district I represented as a city council member. So just being familiar with the area. Any opportunities for traffic calming measures that have been looked at by the applicant?
With that question, I think that would appropriately be answered by Kevin Williams, who's on the call. Kevin, I'm not sure if Amber's on as well, but if the two of you could address some traffic calming measures, that'd be really useful.
Absolutely, Richard. Thank you so much. Kevin Williams, Managing Director of Planning at Equity Environmental, Borough President. It's a pleasure to be before you. And so I really appreciated the comment, because, and actually I can see, this is kind of a standard insight that you have. And, so we, usually when we do rezonings, they're sort of very generic. You do not consider these types of things, and DOT doesn't really review, sort of geometric improvements. Now, having said that, looking at this intersection, because it's got this, sort of triangle, at Lee and Keep, I think that's, you have two access points into that roadway that sort of, complicate traffic circulation. But I do want to let you know what we've done during the day to sort of preliminarily evaluate this. We pulled up Vision Zero. We ran the last 5 years in terms of accident summaries, and there are PED injuries. There have been no fatalities for the last 6 years, but I'll just briefly review. 2019, there were 2 bicycle injuries at the corner of, Excel's not working, at Lee and Keep. And in 2020, there was 1 PED injury at Lee and Keep, and also in 2021. You know, when you consider those citywide, they're relatively modest. Having said that, 1 injury, 1 accident is too many. And so when I was looking at the roadway process, so the triangle area, and I can share my screen, but if you guys have this up, that creates a very odd, like geometric, like right turn, you know, coming across Lee Avenue under the BQ, over the BQE. And there's an opportunity, you know, usually where you have PED accidents is where the pedestrian is blind to the vehicle coming from behind them, right? And so when you're coming across Lee, which is a one-way, and you're making that right on the, or the left on to Keep, either the first left or the second left, both of those are opportunities for incidents, right? And so the possibility for either daylighting or curb extension or partial curb extension, I think exists on that corner, the first corner with Keep and Lee, and then also potentially to extend or to basically use the flexible delineators or flexible bollards with a colored pavement, you know, to basically, you know, kind of extend that and to allow pedestrians to move through. There's also potentially an opportunity on the northbound section of Keep as you go through Lee Avenue to potentially do a partial curb extension there to kind of buffer the parking lane and extend the crosswalk. Now, having said all of that, you know, New York City, you know, I was involved when they first started doing complete streets, and Janet Sadiq Khan, who was DOT commissioner, you know, rolled that out, and I think is one of the most brilliant additions to New York City. That and the bike lanes have really, you know, you compare the accidents and just the ability to sort of alight and sit with people in those areas has made a tremendous improvement. And when you look at the historic pictures here, there have been improvements in terms of the striping, in terms of the curb cuts. And so we are absolutely, we think it would be beneficial for the project, beneficial for the area, you know, to look at these simple tactics to try to reinforce the pedestrian realm, because this community walks. It's only 20% car ownership. And so we definitely take that to heart. Now, the steps to doing that are, you know, DOT has to basically look at the auto turns for the vehicles to go through the area. And there are a lot of buses in this area associated with institutional uses proximate to the site. So we have to balance turning geometry with, and the ability to make those turns with potential sort of daylighting types of deployments. And so I think we'd be happy to interface with DOT and to have them look at it and to get into discussions to see what we can do, because I think this corner, because we're trying to make a gateway here, I think, you know, greater pedestrian enhancements is something that's feasible, but we have to provide the proofs to DOT.
Thank you, Kevin.
When you actually propose to engage with DOT?
I'm sorry, Mr. Burke.
Yeah, when do you intend to actually then engage with Department of Transportation?
Tomorrow morning. So, you know, I mean, we're people of action. So, and you know, we deal with, you know, the unit that handles geometric design and PED improvements all the time. So I will make some inquiries, you know, obviously super busy, you know, all the staff that, you know, Brooklyn Borough staff, planning staff, it's very, very difficult, but we'll reach out and we'll document that communication for you. And they'll basically identify what they want to see, which will be auto turns and some, you know, some geometric arrangements, and we can get the ball rolling. You know, because, you know, honestly, I really appreciate the borough president's consideration and yours, you know, on these types of matters, because they often do get overlooked in rezonings. So.
Yes, getting them looked at actually prior to certification, even a better goal to shoot for.
We will will shoot for that. Absolutely.
There you go, Kevin. Always opportunities to improve.
Absolutely. I mean, I just think this is a beautiful street, and this is the entryway, and so it just made sense when I heard the comment. So
Yeah, I appreciate it. I think it is a beautiful street and has a lot of potential. So I agree with you. So I want to again remind viewers who wish to testify that you must enter your name in the WebEx chat and state intent to speak on this application. After the presentation and question and answer portion, we'll call speakers in order of chat requests, and just want to see if there is anyone that is requested to speak on this item.
There is one person on the phone representing Community Board 1, Mr. Simon Wieser. If we can unmute him.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes,
can you hear me?
Yes, we can, Simon.
Yeah.
How are you?
Okay, good. First of all, I'd like to Simon Weiser is the first vice chair, CB1. Also, I'm a member of the ULIP committee. So first, I'd like to commend the board president as this is your first ULIP meeting as the board president, and you're doing a heck of a job. And you really look at the whole. I've been listening in all the projects. You look at the whole picture, not just the actual building. So wish you luck going forward. So first, I would like to just apply some clarifications on this rezoning. So I would just like to, first of all, the community board voted in favor of this, but with many restrictions. First of all, this would just for this particular building, 103 Lee Avenue, that should not include the other lot we spoke about, and mainly is because this developer, he's open about the low income and what he's willing to give, but we have no control as yet of this other owner, and he's not committed, with low income, and we don't know what his plans are. So it's basically a blank check. So that the community board felt very strongly that this rezoning application should be just for this property. Also, that the owner had agreed to make it a distinctive deed that this building would never increase more than 8 floors. And I just want to make sure that it's clear on the record that this was also, there was an issue that if this rezoning was granted, that the amount of units would stay the same and wouldn't increase. Let's say if we change the plans, 1s or 2s, making them into studios. So that was also agreed upon. So I just want to make sure that now I just now going regarding the actual rezoning. I'm just voicing an opinion of many residents that feel that the character of the height of the building is way out of character of this neighborhood, and on particularly Lee Avenue on Keep Street. And if we look on Keep Street and on Lee Avenue, the surrounding area, surrounding blocks, this would be very, I would call it like a finger building that they call that building in the north ones, because it would be way out of character. And I think that we should cap this building to 6 floors, like the adjacent building. That's, I think, makes sense. Now, also, I want to mention that I appreciate the Board President regarding the issue of safety of transportation, which, as I was mentioned, the idea of making a safety because the traffic coming down Lee Avenue could make two left turns into Williamsburg East and also to Keep Street. So I would like to commend of the enhancements that was recommended. So just to recap, what I was saying is that I oppose greatly the height of this building because 8 floors is way out of character of this neighborhood. And the second issue is that, which is very troubling, is out of this whole project is 1 3-bedroom apartment. And if this building is trying to cater for low income, and every low income project that has been lately introduced has more than one 3-bedroom apartment. And this the way this is built, or the way this is put forward, there's only one 3-bedroom apartment. So that's my testimony. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Weiser. Appreciate your testimony. Are there any other speakers or?
Yes, hello.
1 second.
Hello.
1 second.
Hello.
We hear you. Can you just hold on
okay.
just hold on 1 second. We identify you. Who's on the call?
Please identify yourself.
My name is. Hello.
Yes, please identify yourself. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Adonis. I'm a born and bred Williamsburg resident. I have a business down the block, and I don't know where Mr. Weiser takes his information, because on Keep Street between Lee and Marcy, there's an 8-story building that's about double the size of this building. So as far as that's concerned, I don't know that it's out of character, but I hear people, my customers coming in and saying, do you know of an apartment, a man go for a child, and they have to be in a basement, they have to be in a sub-basement, there's no windows, there isn't enough apartments. And I don't know where this Simon Weiser is coming from that he doesn't know this, but I work here and I live here and I know that it is a fact. And this builder came forward and he's building apartments for young people, which is exactly what's needed. And they're trying to stop him. And he was the only one that was outvoted by the community boards. I don't know why he says the feeling of everybody. He just said residents. He didn't say about the community board. So that's my comment.
Thank you for your testimony. Are there any more folks to testify? If this is another caller calling in, can you identify yourself?
Hello.
Hello, hi.
Yeah.
Can you please identify yourself?
Oh, my name is Charles Krause, and I have a restaurant right across the building. And it tells you that the owner of the building, he comes into the store sometimes, and he's a wonderful guy. And he keeps on saying what he's gonna build affordable houses is doing what the community needs. You know, especially the younger people, they don't have where to live, and I don't understand what people are opposed to the rezoning, because this is something that everyone needs.
Thank you. Thank you as well for your testimony. Appreciate it. Is there anyone else that is prepared to testify?
There are no more callers on the line.
Thank you.
Are there any callers for previous items? There's no one in the chat.
No, no one else.
Okay, I'll call on Richard Barrack to please close this item.
Calendar item number 3 is closed.
Well, the hearing on these items is now closed. Thank you for participating in this remote public hearing. I will review the applications here today and submit my recommendations to the City Planning Commission for further consideration. I'd like to take the opportunity to remind you that City Planning Commission will hold a public hearing on these items, which will be announced at a later date. Finally, viewers can further submit comments by email to askreynoso@brooklynbp.nyc.gov. Thank you all for joining me in my first hearing here as Borough President. I hope to see you all soon. Thank you to the staff for taking the time to be here. till 9 o'clock, helping me out. Many of you still in your offices, I can tell. And this hearing is now adjourned.
Thank you. Thanks to everyone.
Thank you, Richard, and everyone else, on. Thank you so much to my staff.